2013 is the 500-year anniversary of the Spanish arriving in Florida. And so we were trying to think of a theme for Art of Sand. Of course, you're in a zoo and you naturally think of animals, but because we had this unique opportunity to celebrate an anniversary, we really wanted to tie that into our whole sculpture experience.
It's a little bit about history and the history of Brevard County, its wildlife, flora, fauna.
The exhibit is all about the changes here in Florida. Florida's past, present, and future. You get an opportunity to really experience the changes because Florida's habitat is always changing. And so what's living here, like the animals behind us, have changed over the last few million years. Florida started coming above water about 10 million years ago. We started getting some really unusual prehistoric animals, such as the giant ground sloth behind me, the saber cat, the fossil rhinoceros, short-faced bears. Around 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, it's believed that that's when the humans moved into Florida, and many of our large game animals, the giant ground sloth, the giant tortoise, the glyptodon, which is being hunted by our Native Americans that were here 10,000 years ago.
Sculpture behind me specifically depicts the Timucua tribe, who were from North Florida around the Jacksonville area. This illustration depicted behind me in the sand sculpture would have been done in the 1560s by a French artist. And so here they are hunting white-tailed deer using white-tail skins as their camouflage.
As you move through the timeline of these amazing sand sculptures, you're getting a chance to really see the changes that have occurred in Florida, many of them driven by humans changing our environment.
2013, of course, is the 500th anniversary of the Spanish arrival here in Florida, really the first Europeans to set foot in what's now the continental United States. And so the sculpture behind me depicts that moment when Ponce de Leon and his men would have landed on the east coast of Florida in April of 1513. The sculptors really tried to pick out images from the time to depict these people as they would have looked. They don't look like Hollywood conquistadors. You don't see the plumes and the fancy helmets. Not only are we looking at 500 years of Florida's history, but a little bit after that, 450 years ago, we have the first settlements here in Florida. Up the coast from us here at St. Augustine, you start to see onions being grown here as a cash crop. One of the first things exported from the United States were onions, but also citrus fruits, which took root here, brought over by the Spanish. And so the early Spanish farmers here established St. Augustine really as a trading center because ships sailing back to Spain needed a place to resupply. Florida was the land of the first cattle ranches in America, established by the Spanish. The sculpture behind me depicts Florida cracker cattle ranchers, as they would have been called. These men lived almost completely solitary lives. They would scatter over wide areas of Florida, just like the cattle. The cattle would range over huge areas of otherwise uninhabited land. And then at the time of the cattle drive, which you see here, they would round up these cattle from all over Florida and then push them together into one massive drive to a railhead, such as at Kissimmee, which was a big cattle town. In the background of this one, you'll see there's a very simple dwelling there, which is really just a Native American chickee. So that's how they would have lived, a very simple life, very uncomfortable, not at all like the glamorous Hollywood stereotype of the cowboy. Florida was a prime destination for naturalists. And so beginning in the 18th century, you have people coming all the way from Europe to see this sort of extraordinary ecosystem of Florida. And one of the most famous, probably the most famous, was John James Audubon. The downside of all this exposure, of course, is that some of the native bird species are then devastated by Europeans and Americans seeking them out as fashion statements, to the extent that one species, at least, the Carolina parakeet, which flourished here in Florida up until the 19th century, was hunted to complete extinction.
And now we're kind of looking at the present moving into the future. This is changes in Florida. There's pythons, marine toads, many different animals that are iguanas and other animals that are moving into Florida that we call invasives, but they're here. And Florida, because of our climate, is a place where many animals can survive very well from all over the world. So this is where you get a chance to sort of see the changes and what the future of Florida might be.
There's always the danger of losing something old and it's being replaced by something new. Sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. So the Art of Sand will let you draw your own conclusions, but as you walk through, you're going to go from millions of years in the past and into Florida's future.